Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, we're going to react to New York City and Los Angeles compared. So I've just got back from a trip where I went to both of these cities, and I was quite shocked at the difference. For a long time I've heard about the differences between the East Coast and the West Coast, but I always assumed because it's both, they're both in the same country, how different can they really be? But man, they were really different. New York felt a lot more like, it was more of a European city for sure. It felt more like London, but more extreme. Like everybody's rushing around, a lot of skyscrapers and high rises, fast. Everything was fast, lots of lights. Times Square was just incredible. Like it felt quite like a fast city, whereas Los Angeles felt a lot more chilled for sure, a lot more relaxed, nowhere near as many high rises. You've got the beaches, you've got, it's just the sunshine, very, very, very different. But it's going to be fun just to see, what the actual numbers are, like if comparing the populations, the GDP, the lifestyle. It's going to be quite interesting just to get into the numbers.
New York City, New York, the Big Apple. Empire City, the city of dreams, the city so nice they named it twice. And Los Angeles, California, the Big Orange, the city of angels. La La Land, Shaky Town. NYC and LA are the two largest cities in the United States. New York has the most people with a population of 8.5 million, while LA has around 4 million people.
4 million people, yeah. That's a pretty big deal. That's a big deal, and I wanted to celebrate. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Jerry, would you do the honors, please? Yes! Here we go. Yeah! We did it!
The New York metropolitan area.
Yeah, the New York skyline is incredible. The helicopter ride that we did, where you get to just see all of these big buildings, stunning.
However, has 20.3 million people, so about 1 in 16 Americans live there. The Los Angeles metropolitan area has about 13.1 million people. Both are cosmopolitan, world-famous cities. Two cities that never seem to sleep, always hustling and bustling. Over the last century, the two cities have dominated and influenced the culture of the rest of the entire country. It's like the two forget the fact that the rest of us exist. You see this on mainstream TV. Most national news and entertainment programming occurs in either LA or New York.
Really?
Although LA has way more YouTubers than New York, both are by oceans. NYC by the Atlantic Ocean and LA by the Pacific. Both are diverse. We're talking people flock from all over the world to these two cities to start new lives. More than 37% of New York residents were born in another country. Nearly 40% of LA residents were born in another country. Almost half of the residents of LA are considered either Hispanic or Latino. New York has historically been the main way immigrants come to the United States. In both LA and New York, you'll see lots of ethnic enclaves.
Yeah, I reckon New York probably has a lot more European immigration because of its closeness to Europe. Like from London, I think it only took us 7.5 hours to get to New York, and then to get to LA, it was another 7-hour flight.
Or neighborhoods dominated by one ethnic group. Both tend to have younger residents compared to most other cities around the United States. Although LA is a bit younger, it's really freaking expensive to live in both cities. Although LA is about 8.3% less expensive than New York, but it's a lot more expensive to buy a home in LA. The median household income in both cities is similar. The unemployment rates and job growth rates are also comparable. Related to how expensive it is in both places, of course, is how crowded both cities are. While LA is notorious for its bad traffic, by some metrics, New York's traffic is actually worse. Here's another.
One thing that's shocked me about LA is the lack of public transport. Like, why doesn't LA have high-speed trains? Like, they really should and could. Like, it's so huge. High-speed rail would just make life so much easier. So much easier.
Prize. If you look at the entire metro areas, LA, the city known for its sprawl that goes on for miles and miles, has a higher population density than New York. But city proper ain't nobody as dense as New York City. We're talking 27,000 per square mile in NYC versus around 8,000 people per square mile in LA.
Less,
the average commute time for both cities is way higher than the national average. New Yorkers use more public transportation than LA folks, by far. I mean, there's really no comparison. In LA, people own cars. They drive. In New York, over half of the households don't own a car. 75% of Manhattan residents don't. New York has by far the highest rate of public transportation use of any American city. 1 in 3 Americans who use mass transit regularly live in New York or its suburbs.
I will say the cost of the New York subway impressed me. It's cheaper than here by far. I think it was like $2.80 per journey. Like, no matter how far you go, it's $2.80. Whereas here it works by zones. It's zone 1 to 9. So if you go from zone 1 to 1, it's like £3.60. If you go from 1 to 2, it's like £4, and it incrementally goes up. It used to cost me when I worked in, because I lived in zone 6 back in the day, and I worked in zone 1. Like, zone 1 is the center of London. It used to cost me like £15 a day to get to and from work. So for a month, we're talking like, you know, almost £500 just to get to work.
New York has one of the largest subway systems in the world. Los Angeles? No offense, but your mass transit system is a joke.
Oh, come on! Open it up!
Sorry, not £500. 15 times like 22, we're talking like £300. But then you have to pay for lunch and stuff.
Is this good, Olympic and Hauser?
Not all the way, you gotta transfer.
Transfer. Olympic and Hauser? I'm supposed to go to, sir? I'm supposed to go to Olympic and Hauser?
Yeah, oh, it's easy, man. Get off at the La Cienega stop. You got a couple of options.
Okay, will you tell me when that's coming up?
I'm not your babysitter. Figure it out.
Both cities used to be under the control of different European countries. New York used to be New Amsterdam, under the control of the Dutch in the first half of the 1600s. Los Angeles used to be under Spanish rule in the late 1700s and early 1800s, and then under Mexican rule for a while. Yeah, let's go into some history of the two cities, eh?
Is that why you have such a big Spanish-speaking culture there in LA? Is it kind of reminiscent of the past colonial links?
Before I get too far in New York, I should say this video is a collaboration with M. Laser, who just released a video about the history of New York.
Hello.
He goes in like way more detail than me, but I will give you some bits and pieces here. So, New York, it used to be settled by the Russians.
Actually, no. The New York City area prior to the European colonization was inhabited by the Lenape people.
Okay, well, but New York City was named by the British after the York peppermint patty.
No, it wasn't.
Just go do your video already.
Okay, but I'm going to need your help.
Wait, what did you do?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, so anyway, now that you've got some history of New York, here's a bit of the history of LA. When the Spanish arrived in greater numbers in the 1700s, around 5,000 Native Americans known as the Tongva resided in the Los Angeles basin. NYC was founded in 1624, 157 years before LA. To put that in perspective, Denver is 160 years old, and for decades, Los Angeles was just a sleepy little colonial town along the Pacific Ocean.
And I think people discovered gold in LA or California, and that's why people really flocked there in huge numbers, right?
Founded on September 4th, 1781, by 11 Mexican families, all known as Los Pobladores. Even after the Americans took control of the town in 1848, it remained small. However, that began to change after the completion of the Santa Fe Railroad line, which connected Chicago to LA in 1885. After that, the population exploded, going from around 15,000 to 100,000 by 1900. In the early 1900s, filmmakers began flocking to the Los Angeles area to escape Thomas Edison and his motion picture patents company in New York. You see, in Southern California, they could escape the ridiculous licensing fees from Edison's monopoly. Once the filmmakers got to LA, they stayed for the wonderful weather and wide range of geographical locations and architectural styles nearby to film with. So Hollywood fueled even more growth, as well as innovative aircraft aircraft construction during World War II. After World War II, growth remained steady. And
it's interesting because I've heard a lot of studios are now leaving LA. They're not filming in LA anymore. They're moving to other states like Atlanta, I've heard, is getting a lot of studios. Where else? Even England, I think a lot of films are now being made in England at the Elstree Studios near London. I think it's something to do with the taxes or something like that. I think LA has a really, really high tax rate, something like that.
While today old industries in the city have dramatically declined, new ones have taken their place. The top 3 industries in Los Angeles today are entertainment, no surprise there, aerospace, and tourism. The top 3 in New York are financial services, media, and communications. New York residents are generally more well-educated than LA residents. About 39% of New Yorkers have at least a bachelor's degree, compared with 32% of Angelinos. It gets quite a bit colder in New York, although it can get pretty hot in the summer there. It has a humid subtropical climate, believe it or not. New York has 4 seasons. LA has 2, a wet season and a dry season. LA has what they call a Mediterranean climate, with moderate, lovely temperatures year-round. And yeah, it can get fairly dry there, which often can cause wildfires that swallow up neighborhoods. Speaking of disasters, LA also has to deal with earthquakes being in the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, when we were driving like from Yosemite to Sequoia National Park, we drove by lots of like dry looking fields where, you know, the grass was like yellow, the trees were looking really barren. And we were just thinking, yeah, if there was, God forbid, a small fire in one of these fields, that would spread really fast because of the dryness of all of the like vegetation.
And more smog than New York. But it's not as bad as it used to be there. New York might have a bad winter storm here and there, but usually by the time hurricanes make their way up the East Coast to NYC, they have weakened considerably. LA has mountains nearby. New York doesn't. New York is actually like 5 cities. Really, they are administrative divisions. They call them
Brooklyn,
boroughs.
Queens,
They all used to be independent places, but consolidated. The 5 are Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx, and Staten Island. New York has stricter laws overall than LA. For example, it has a ban on smoking in public. New York also has a higher tax burden than LA. New York has lower property taxes, but slightly higher sales taxes and much higher income taxes. What about tourist attractions? Well, both have plenty. New York's got Times Square, the Statue of Liberty.
Times Square was absolutely heaving when we went. We went at 9:30 at night thinking it would be really quiet. We'd get it to ourselves. No, it was like being in a sardine can, just like...
World Trade Center, Central Park,
Amazing,
the
though.
High Line, the Rockefeller Center, and the Empire State Building. LA's got Hollywood, Universal Studios,
Venice
Disneyland,
Beach,
Griffith
Santa
Observatory
Monica.
and Park, the Getty Center, Santa Monica Pier, and Venice Beach. Professional sports teams? Of course. New York's got the Yankees and Mets for baseball, the Giants and Jets for football,
The Knicks and
and
Nets.
Nets for basketball. Hey, I'm rhyming. And the Devils, Islanders, and Rangers for hockey. LA's got the Dodgers and Angels for baseball, the Chargers
Lakers.
and Rams for football, the Lakers and Clippers for basketball, and the King.
The Lakers and the Clippers logo, like they're quite similar, aren't they, in terms of the font? I wonder if that was deliberate.
And Ducks for hockey. Other random things. New York has a stock exchange. LA does not. LA has hosted the Olympic Games. New York has not. New York was tragically one of the sites of the deadliest terrorist attack in American history. LA hasn't had a severe earthquake since 1857, back when hardly anyone lived there. That was a magnitude 7.8 on the Richter scale. If this were to happen again today, it would be perhaps the deadliest natural disaster in American history. LA has palm trees. New York does not. Strangely, when Los Angeles was founded, it didn't have any palm trees at all,
Yeah,
by the
they were
way. All
imported.
right, so this is getting way too long. I better wrap this up. The bottom line is, the 2 cities definitely symbolize 2 different cultures in the United States. You know, the whole East Coast, West Coast divide. When you're at both places, you really feel like you're in the middle of it all. While the 2 try to dominate over the entire rest of the country, it's nice to know that they keep each other in check. I'm here with the cynical historian and Grant Hurst, and I'm just going to ask him what they think the differences are between New York and LA.
Pizza. That's it.
In LA, no one uses their signals in their car. In New York, no one drives cars.
Which do you prefer? Personal preference.
LA.
Probably LA, yeah.
Okay.
I
Why?
can still drive. And being able to, like, have a house, you know?
Oh yeah, as expensive as LA is, it's still cheaper than New York.
Yeah, I agree.
Whoa, Mr. Beat. New York versus LA, it's no contest. New York all the way. We have the best people, the best cultures, the best landmarks, the best buildings, the best pizza, the best bagels, the best baseball. It's New
The bagels in New York are pretty tasty.
York all the way. And I know this is a total rip-off of a Casey Neistat angle. We still got him too.
What did we miss? What did we get?
Super fun video. If I had to choose which I prefer, New York or LA, it's hard because we spent way less time in LA than we did in New York. We spent 4 days in LA, 4 days in New York, and really only like 1.5 days in LA because we were traveling around California. I would have to say I probably prefer New York just because it's much more, it feels more familiar. It's more of what I know. Like it's quite similar to London in a lot of ways. But LA definitely felt really cool, like so chill, a lot more relaxed. I don't know, maybe if I spent more time in LA, I would prefer LA because it's very close, honestly, very, very close. But yeah, I would say like I really liked Brooklyn. Brooklyn was so cool, especially like the Dumbo area. Oh, it's such a tough one. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.